Oh, I'm sorry. I was actually talking and I was muted. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 828, Micromobility Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. There's a document in the description needs the video for you to follow along with and reference. If you want to join the panel, there'll be a link in the chat. It's a Zoom link. Make sure you click on the Zoom link with an updated Zoom client before joining. All right, let's get started. Let me share my screen. Let me know when you can see my screen. Push one in the chat if you can see my screen. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Let's get started. This is from newatlas.com. California first in line for Smalo AI-powered city e-bikes. Smalo e-bikes is a new name in the e-mobility space and has announced that it's riding into the US with two stylish models designed for urban or city travelers. The LX2 and the PX2 e-bikes each roll with AI smarts to enhance the riding experience. Smalo is a new sub-brand of Taiwan multinational BSF SV, which is responsible for the design of the LX2 and PX2 city rides. Each features a 250-watt motor with a torque sensor in the bottom bracket for assistance up to 20 miles an hour, with a handy boost mode to outsmart traffic and conquer any slopes. A simple LED display built into the stem shows key ride info with a USB port included for topping up mobile gadgetry while out and about. AI brains have been installed within the top tube to learn a rider's power output and not only provide automatic shifting, but also predictive range based on their power output in riding patterns. The setup automatically shifts between 7 Shimano gears and adjusts pedal assist from the motor for a smooth ride. The circuitry works with an app over Bluetooth LE, low energy, for system analysis and optimization. And should be an issue be detected, the app can guide the rider through troubleshooting. The app can also be used to track the bike's location and battery status, set the alarm and crash alerts, and unlock the smart lock on user approach. A passcode can also be entered directly on the bike. The LX2 flavor is built around a slick Van Moof-like aluminum frame that's ready for riders between 5.6 and 6.3 feet in height, and sports an integrated 380 lumen LED headlight plus a brake and tail light. It comes with a 504 watt an hour battery for between 37 and 74 miles of range per charge riding. Sports 28-inch wheels with Schwalbe Big Apple tires, and comes to a stop courtesy of Shimano hydraulic brakes. This is interesting. The PX2 lowers the top bar and shrinks the wheels to 20 inches to accommodate rider heights between 5 and 5.6 feet. It boasts a full squish in the shape of a suspension fork and an extra rear shock. The 365 watt an hour batteries reckoned good for up to 50 miles of range. So California has been, kind of on the forefront of like EVs and stuff like that. And I think that this was inevitably going to happen, that they were going to find some manufacturer that can actually produce the e-bikes they need for the agenda that they have already set forth, because they have the resources to do it, and they've already been, kind of trending in this direction. So I think this is a good thing. Maybe for guys like Complex, he may not necessarily want, the city to actually provide their own e-bikes. It'd probably more preferable if he had his own e-bikes being purchased through the city and city of LA or the state of California for. Wait, could anybody hear me? MOT, can you hear me?
You went out for a second, then you just came back now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that oh, it stopped sharing. Okay, I see what happened. Yeah, I think that these e-bikes make a lot of sense, primarily because they have, with the AI built into it, because you can collect all this data. You can kind of predetermine whether or not, based on the geolocation that you're in, whether or not you need more power, more boost, more conserving of the battery for that matter, what gear you should be in. That's really good. Not everybody probably needs it, but there are some people who that becomes a benefit. Most of your vehicles right now, made after 2005, do have these learning capabilities built into them. I know Volkswagen has had this for quite some time. It's not AI based, but it's. I'm sorry?
I said Honda as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what it does is it adapts to your driving behavior of like how many times you brake and how many times you hit the accelerator and stuff like that, and kind of tries to calculate how much fuel that it should probably use. I think in e-bikes, this makes a whole lot of sense.
It's supposed to be a program in Denver pretty soon. I've been talking to Mayor Hattisburg, Jackson, and like where I'm from, and they're thinking about doing the same thing that California's doing. They're just buying a whole e-bike setup to get people mobile around the city. It's way cheaper than having a bus. And
we'll tell you, you're borging a lot. I think Complex is here. Complex, you have anything you want to add to this?
Yo, Mike, yeah, I was busy kind of moving some stuff around in the back. I was literally just finishing some stuff up. I know there was a point that you made about California and you mentioned me. You want to just repeat that?
No, California made the acquisition, they're acquiring these bikes from Taiwan that were AI powered. And I was saying that this is good for the state of California, but if you're talking about, Complex, maybe he might want his e-bikes being purchased rather than, them being purchased from Taiwan, right? And so
okay. Yeah.
That's the point that I was making. I think that, it can go either way, whether you want to keep the Taiwanese manufacturing in business or you want to actually buy locally, somebody has those bikes have to be purchased at some point is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah. Okay. That's what okay. That was what I thought your point was. Mm-hmm. And, that is a kind of a thorn, right? Because, when you take, my, Pacific rides and you take BME bikes together, we've been in the game for over 20 years collectively, right? And BME bikes was literally one of the first electric bike shops in SoCal when my partner Tim started it back in 2013. So it's sort of like to kind of pioneer an industry, or to kind of be a dude who is sort of like like a forward thinker in the industry, only for then like your business interest to kind of be, you know, I guess you could just say subverted by the same suppliers that you use to create the industry, right? It's almost like you did the work for them in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, it is. We do kind of view it as a slight a little bit, you know, because you would think that what the state would do would be to reach out or essentially, I don't want to say get favoritism too, but maybe just kind of prioritize companies that operate that do pay taxes to the state for those types of products and services, to engage with them, maybe say on a more infrastructure level, dude. That's at least what my thought is.
Yeah. All right. Next item on the docket is from businesswire.com. Bird acquires Spin, now North America's largest micromobility operator by market share. Bird, a leader in environmentally friendly electric transportation, today announced it has acquired shared electric bike and scooter operator Skinny Labs Incorporated, doing business as Spin, from Berlin-based Tier Mobility. The transaction makes Bird the largest micromobility operator in North America by market share and is expected to be immediately accretive to earnings. Spin is now a wholly owned subsidiary of Bird Rides Incorporated. The purchase price was $19 million, including $10 million in upfront cash, $6 million in vendor takeback, and $3 million as a holdback. The transaction was supported by Midcap Financial Investment and Midcap Financial Trust, managed and or advised by Apollo Capital Management. For the 12 months ended June 30th, 2023, Spin delivered approximately $45 million in net revenue, bringing the combined net revenue for Bird and Spin to approximately $265 million for that period. The transaction is expected to have upwards of $20 million in synergies and be immediately accretive to earnings for Bird, due in part to recent operational restructuring. Spin, which is headquartered in San Francisco, has a strong presence in North America, including operations in over 50 cities and university campuses with minimal overlap with Bird's existing footprint. The acquisition increases Bird's geographical footprint, solidifying its position as the leading micromobility operator in North America by market share and by number of market service. Now, Complex, you used to work for Bird back in 2017, 2018. You have anything you want to?
Yep.
Yeah. You have anything to share about this?
This is man. We've been kind of predicting this, like the consolidation of the industry, because now what we're looking at here is the consumer market exploding, right? You see, so now all of these different operators that were doing the different fleet services and stuff like that, you know, it's a cost analysis type of thing, right? It's like, you know, you got to take your losses on your assets versus your revenues on your rides, right? Then you look at, if you start to look around and start to see other people just buying their own stuff, you have to kind of pick and choose like how you're going to service like the rideshare market. So now do you go niche? Do you start to service hotels, apartment buildings and stuff like that, where now what we're doing is we have more of a niche application, right? Because from a general rideshare standpoint, typically a lot of people, if they've been doing that continuously, at a certain point, they start to consider to buy their own vehicle, right? And so now you've just lost like a regular customer from a rideshare standpoint, and then you're still kind of, you know, relying on people to just hop on it and go where they need to go and all that. And so what you've seen is like the revenues kind of dip down, like I said, unless you're serving like niche markets, you know. So another point that I don't think was brought up was that Spin had investment from Ford. So that was Ford's hands into the micromobility thing. So they pumped some cash into it, wanted to see what it would do, right? And ultimately ended up getting acquired by Bird. Now, what Bird has been able to do is because Bird capitalized early on being able to go global, Bird has made a ton of revenue. Okay, they've made a ton of revenue, even though a lot of legislation and regulation and stuff like that has really curbed a lot of the business that they were once making. The thing about them is that they got their business footprint everywhere. And so that's the reason why this acquisition was relatively easy for them. But I mean, when you start looking at Lime and some of the other players and stuff, man, they're just kind of dwindling away. So Bird is going to be the main people. And then I would say at a certain point, look for Bird to get acquired by somebody like Uber. Uber has money in Bird, low key, because the dude who's behind Bird, I think he also had some dealings with Uber at one point. So there is a lot of synergy with these alignments and things that are happening here. And another point in that article was that Spin largely operates in markets where Bird doesn't. Now, where I'm at here in Kern Valley, there was me, Bird, and Spin. All three of us are here. So, I mean, well, they said little overlap. So you can see in like a mid-sized market, like where I'm at, this is a mid-market. This isn't a large market. This is a mid-market. So Spin they had scooters here at one point. They took the scooters out and then they left the bikes. So then it became Bird and myself that had the scooters, right? See, so yeah, it's interesting to kind of just see the consolidation of the rideshare market, because then on the other side of that previous article, they were talking about, well, the states are just going to go ahead and invest on their own. So,
Indeed. All right, next item on the docket is from Chicago Sun-Times. Lime scooter ridership booming, 1 million rides reported in Chicago this year. The San Francisco-based company attributes part of that boom to the equity discount offered on the south and west sides. Electric scooter sharing company Lime says its ridership in Chicago is booming. The San Francisco-based company has recorded more than 1 million rides this year. Lime attributes that part of the boom to the 50% equity discount on the south and west sides. More than 400,000 of this year's rides were taken in those areas, the company said Thursday. This year accounts for most of Lime's rides in Chicago since it was introduced here in 2019. The company has recorded 1.7 million rides since then. Lime is among 3 companies with licenses to rent scooters in Chicago, including Spin and Lyft. Super Pedestrian said Thursday it had left the Chicago market. Electric scooters were introduced in Chicago in 2 pilot programs in 2019 and 2020. The city scooter program became permanent in 2021. Last month, Lime said it was seeking to expand scooter access to the Lakefront Trail, where e-bikes from Divy are already allowed. 1.7 million rides.
Divy's been there. Divy's been there since I lived there.
Yeah.
When I was there from 2012 to 2015, Divy has been there. They were there then. So.
Yeah, 1.7 million rides.
One other point, Mike. I was going to say one other point. That previous article, well, Bird just bought Spin, so now Bird is in Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, 1.7 million rides equals a lot of revenue when you start combining the discounts from the city and the state, and then you combine that with people who are actually willing to pay, right? I think that what we're talking about here is volume for market share and revenue quarter over quarter. It's not going to go down anytime soon. A lot of your customer base is going to be that Zennial, millennial demographic. And so they can't afford to own a car, they can't afford insurance, and they can't justify paying either when most of their trips are 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 feet, multiple, multiple instances of just running errands and stuff like that. You can't really do that with the car. I mean, you can do it with the car, but you'll be sitting in traffic. You can't find a parking space. The cost of operation, total cost of ownership, that becomes the burden, right? And so scooters fill this sort of niche that people had been looking for a long time. A bike, you have to pedal, you have to it's really cumbersome to really carry up and down stairs. Scooters, they collapse down, they can be charged really quickly, and they go just as fast, compared to some of the cars that typically you would be sitting in traffic with in Chicago or some of these major urban areas. And so
right past them.
Yeah, and with bike lane infrastructure being put in place, you start to see how this starts to make a lot of sense, that people are adopting these things because they're saying, oh, you know what? I don't have to walk, not because I'm lazy, but because I have 2 or 3 areas I need to go. I have to go to Whole Foods. I have to go to Target. I have to go to, CVS or Walgreens. And so that becomes, the justification for actually owning a scooter or even checking one out at that time, especially if you start putting them in abundance in strategic areas, these sort of last mile locations. That makes a lot of sense. If I could just walk out of my house, walk maybe a couple 100 feet to go grab one, and then run to, go get a pizza or something like that.
Yeah. Mike, did they say how much the fares were?
No.
In that market? Because they said that, they didn't mention because I was just kind of maybe trying to calculate some figures in my head, right? They said how much is the rider discount?
It was 50% of the total cost.
50%? 50% of the total cost. Okay. So, like we did something similar here, right? Where you, one of the things that you really do have to do this as a public service, because essentially it is a public utility. When you launch a public fleet, you have to go through the public works department, get all your permitting and everything, do that. So any type of public transportation device, or like, let's just say some sort of rideshare van or anything that's going to use public roads for public service, you also have to offer like discounts to people who may say like they may be on public assistance or something, right? So we have something similar to where what we do is we just waive the dollar unlock fee. So you'd only just pay for the per minute use. You wouldn't pay for the unlocking. So if you were only going to go, I don't know, 2-3 miles or what have you, right? And then you're just going to dock it, like that 2-3 miles might equate to maybe, I don't know, like $1.80, depending if it's just like a straight line somewhere, right? But then you already waived the dollar off of there. So not necessarily 50 cents, but from an economic standpoint, yeah, you can cut a good portion of the fare off and still make money. That's the ultimate point I wanted to make. That's why I was just trying to figure out the figures on that, if they had talked about the fares and what they were charging.
Yeah, and if you have like, let's say time of day sort of increases, like for ride sharing programs like Bird and Lyft, I'm not Bird and Lyft, but Lyft and Uber, at peak times that may increase, right?
Like
and
surge,
so surge pricing, right?
Okay.
So surge pricing may actually make it more lucrative, because you can look at how many touches, you can collect a lot of data in these major urban centers, and you can determine what the volume of foot traffic is. You can determine,
that would be the heat maps.
Yeah,
your heat maps. That's your heat maps. That your heat maps is what tells you that, right? That's when you look at, you have your logistics map, right? And you'll see like spots on the map where it's like super red. Some of them are kind of red, and then they're pink, and then they just may have nothing, right? The super red areas where you get all your activity. And then if you move it to time of day, those dots change. They change location. Right. So you could now better have predictability in usage. And then that's what kind of feeds what you're talking about, how you then determine surge rates for certain areas at certain times and stuff.
Yeah, and I've never been to Chicago before, but I think that south and west side of Chicago is predominantly, or more often than not, it has a lot of black people in it. And so that, if that falls in line with the title of the stream today, the the confluence of micromobility and the Black community. What does this really mean, right? And so Black people's take on things is always going to be significantly different. You know, years ago, maybe 10 to 12 years ago, Lupe Fiasco was riding a skateboard, and that became a thing, you know, for Black boys to be out there riding skateboards now. But now you have scooters, and now you'll probably see the trend change again.
You're definitely going to see the trend. You're definitely going to see it.
All right, this is from adweek.com. Finding e-curious buyers, electric bike brands explore alternatives to bike shops. Electric bicycles, or e-bikes, are gaining popularity as a more sustainable mode of transport, especially for shorter trips. We just talked about that. E-bike sales grew by 269% between 2019 and 2022 in the US, according to data from market research firm Circana and reported by ABC. Over half of the US states have some kind of rebate program in place, adding fuel to the category's growth. Now brands like Texas-based eBliss and auto companies like Volkswagen and Porsche are aiming to scoop up a new segment of consumers by promoting their e-bikes alongside cars and golf carts rather than inside traditional bike shops.
What?
Quote, the majority of the market growth is going to come from people that today don't own a bike, said Kirsten Heineke, partner in McKinsey's Frankfurt office and co-lead of the firm's Center for Future Mobility. They are used to the service that you would get from a car dealership. They are used to the fact that if you bring in your car, you might actually get a replacement vehicle for the day. The good news is they are also willing to pay more because their point of reference is what they pay for their car rather than what they would be paying for a bicycle. Of all the ways of our economy is generating greenhouse gases, transportation makes up the biggest piece of the pie. Over a quarter, 28% of U.S. emissions in 2021 came from the sector, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, mainly due to the cars, planes, boats, ships, and trains that burn fossil fuels to get around. And while public transit and electric cars have their place in the sector's transition, e-bike use is poised to play a greater role. Bill Clem, CEO of eBliss, describes his company's strategy as owning the mile. Of the 119 million car rides Americans take daily, 29 million are less than a mile, he said, noting that those shorter trips generate the most emissions per mile. By focusing on converting those trips to e-bikes, brands like eBliss can have an enormous climate impact. But to win over a car-obsessed country, e-bike brands have to act less like bike companies and more like car companies, Clem theorized. That means building the service into the sales model in the same way a car dealership would, and getting rid of the fussier components of bikes that require constant tuning and adjustments. Complex, we talked about this over a month or so ago.
Yep.
We talked about this offline. For those who don't know, we have these sort of offline scrums that we have periodically throughout the weeks. And we talked extensively about this, and it's
literally materializing in our face.
It's such a coincidence that this article would actually highlight that that's exactly what we were talking about. That you can't
it's like the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. Like, dude, are they listening to us?
Yeah. The bikes don't have a chain or a derailleur like a traditional bike. Instead, they're using a lower maintenance transmission technology that aims to stand up to daily rigorous use. They run from $2,500 to $7,000 with a range of 60 to over 130 miles per charge. In January, eBliss announced a distribution partnership with Wisconsin-based golf cart maker Timberland. The dealer has showrooms in all 50 states and carries the Evoque line of eBliss bikes.
God damn.
And as eBliss ramps up production, it aims to release 30 models in the next 18 months. Clem is looking to add traditional car dealerships to its distribution model as well. If we want to make an impact on climate change, we need to think less about the car and more about the ride, Clem said. Car companies are also looking to get in on the e-bike game. Last fall, Porsche launched its own line of e-bikes.
Okay.
Adding to the new high-end models this spring. Volkswagen, Ducati, and BMW also have a wide range of e-bikes, while Mercedes and Jeep have also dabbled in the space through partnerships. Still, Americans aren't yet thinking about emissions when it comes to weighing travel options, according to the recent Morning Consult survey. Nearly half of respondents said that their concern about climate change, if they have any, has no impact on their travel purchase decisions. As rebates and incentives continue to add up, though, and climate change becomes increasingly evident across the US, it's likely that'll shift. Investors and car companies seem to be betting on it. Quote, the classic car user is not going to replace every trip with a bicycle, Heineke said, but you can commute on any bike if the weather is nice, right? Not every day, but maybe every other day. So you're spending a bit less on gasoline and you feel better about yourself and the environment. I mean, we've broken this down.
Listen, if you guys want proof, okay, 2021, 2022, I was doing this partnership marketing thing, and I was also responsible for all the business for a company that produced a scooter designed by Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is all on my Instagram. If you guys don't think I'm full of shit, it's all on my Instagram. Did a bunch of different marketing and different events with Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
Got a picture on the Instagram of that Porsche e-bike, which is $9,000. It's
Mm-hmm.
sexy as shit. It's all Porsche, right? All Bosch components. No, this is dead serious. Like when we do these live streams, these deep dives on this industry, when we say it's burgeoning, this is the new car industry. So like, just even like with this last article, you know, kind of got some ideas in my head, kind of got my juices flowing a little bit, where now people are looking at, well, you use pre-existing distribution models, i.e. say golf cart businesses, right? Like that's dealership space, that's footprint space in various markets. All you do is just put a sample of something in there, and that's it. And you make them a dealer. Now all of a sudden, you're not only are you dealing with quote unquote electric cars vis-a-vis golf carts and stuff, because where I live at, they're legal to drive around on the streets. Arizona, you can drive around on those things in the streets, and so a lot of people buy them. But it would make sense for a golf cart dealership to also sell electric scooters and bikes too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the infrastructure to charge it.
It's already there.
They're already charging golf carts. So
they're already fixing them. They're already doing it. It's the same type of shit. Battery, motors, and controllers. Okay. Same things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Makes perfect sense.
All right, next item on the docket is from Inside EVs. Volkswagen enters e-bike scene in partnership with Pond Holdings. The two companies intend to expand Pond's bike mobility service, BMS, in US and Europe. In recent years, several automakers have been getting into electric bicycles, recognizing these lightweight mobility devices as an integral part of mobility of the future. Indeed, one need not look far to see just how fast the e-bike industry is growing, as nearly every single bicycle brand already has electric bicycle offerings. That being said, Volkswagen has just announced its entry into the e-bike market through its subsidiary, Volkswagen Financial Services, and in a partnership with Pond Holdings, a large mobility company based in the Netherlands. The plan is that the two companies will collaborate to expand electric bicycle leasing for both employees and commercial customers in Europe and the US. Didn't we talk about this last month about microfinancing?
Yes.
You know,
it was a firm, Klarna, when we did that deep dive, right?
Yeah, having access to buy now, pay later.
Right.
But we talked about this extensively, that in order for this market to grow, you had to have some volume, but in order to have the volume, you also had to have people who have
financing.
the financing available. So we weren't that far off, but it seems to me that if you're selling electric cars, you may also want to sell electric bikes and scooters. And if you're doing all of that, you already have the infrastructure, you already have the technicians.
It's already there.
They're all ASE certified. I mean, this seems like a no-brainer, right? It's just.
This is what, Mike, this is kind of what we were waiting for, right? So like where we start to see true convergence. Like, dude, I'm saying, dude, like I had to tell my partner, Tim, dude, like I've always been, for like the last 3-4 years, bro, like when we were kind of just like not sure what the hell was going to go on with all this stuff, right? And he's had the shop open for 10 years now, but he's just been like, I don't know, dude, if we're going to be able to make this. And I used to just tell him, like, Tim, you're just ahead of the game, right? But if we can stick it out, bro, we're going to be right on time. And so now we're starting to see that we're right on time. We were able to stick it out. So that's why I'm like, dude, the convergence is starting to happen where we're even seeing it in our own business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we weren't that far off. I mean, we've been covering this for a while, and a lot of people have been like, not really tuned in, and the numbers are low when you look at the viewership. But in reality, what we've been saying is coming to fruition now.
It's like, yo, this is actually something we need to really be paying attention to. Dude, you just mentioned Volkswagen, Porsche, Bugatti. Let's see, Ford came up vis-a-vis Spin. We're talking big players here. Big players, big money. Golf cart dudes is trying to get into the game now.
And they have to move that capital that they have, because they're not making any money if they don't move it, right? And so
don't move it,
yeah. All right, next item on the docket is from Hackaday. Fast charging a cargo bike from an electric car charger. Fast charging is all the rage, with new electric cars toting faster and faster times to full, but other EVs like e-bikes and e-scooters are often left out of the fun with exceedingly slow charging times. Eprotiva wanted to change this, so he rigged up a fast charging solution for his cargo bike. Level 2 electric vehicle chargers typically output power at 7 kilowatts, with the idea that you will fill up your electric car overnight. But when converted down to 60 volts DC for a DJI Agraris T10 battery, Eprotiva is able to charge from 20% to 100% capacity in as little as 7 minutes. He originally picked this setup for maxing this regen capability of the e-bike, but with the high current capability, he found it had the added bonus of fast charging. The setup uses a Tesla NACS plug, since they are the most plentiful destination charger, but an adapter allows him to also connect to a J1772 Type 1 connector. The EV charging cable is converted to a standard 240 volt computer cable, which feeds power to a drone charger. This charger can be set up to fast charge and then feeds into the battery unit. As an added bonus, many chargers that do cost money don't start charging until after the first 5 minutes. So the bike is even cheaper to power than you expect. Yeah, this is true, that when you plug up a Tesla or any of these cars, there's a countdown of before it actually starts charging, because it doesn't want to, 1, explode the battery, and 2, set it on fire, and 3, it needs to do compatibility checks.
So it does sort of like a check.
Yeah, there's a check.
All right, makes sense.
Yeah, so, but we talked about this in the last micromobility talk, that in China, they were, the article that we read about China was that, China's so far ahead, they just allow, residential consumer plug-in of e-bikes and e-scooters and stuff like that at these sort of locations, and they're just so far ahead of the game. But I had argued that if you leave that in the United States, that somebody's going to get hurt and they're going to sue, right? Whether they plug a fork inside the socket or something like that. This makes a lot more sense because the charger is designed so that it doesn't fault, right? It doesn't fail on the end user. So you plug it in, it syncs, and it takes like a few minutes or a few seconds for it to sync up, and then it starts charging, so you don't actually electrocute yourself.
Yeah, it regulates, dude. So
right.
I want to say there was a live stream we did some time back where somebody actually came up with an adapter, the same thing. So what they could do was use like a level 2 car charger, and then they could charge up. I want to say they were actually able to charge a 48 volt. They were even able to go down from a 60 to a 48. It was an e-bike that they had that had a 48 volt battery setup, and the dude was able to charge it. I don't know if it like charged in 7 minutes. It didn't say anything about that, but he was able to use a car charger and an adapter that had a regulator. So it takes the power, but then what it does is only dumps a 48 volt feed into the battery. So it regulates it. Right. So I think that might be, I was going to say, that could be sort of like a market changer right there. But I think there's going to have to be some sort of regulation in that in terms of how those types of adapters and regulators are made. So like the regulators and adapters themselves don't explode.
Well, I think that's been discussed, right? Because I know that Shmee150 who on YouTube who had a Porsche Taycan, his car was not compatible with the Tesla charger. It failed every single time. Like 2 out of 3 times it kept failing. And so that's one of the reasons why he got rid of it, is because there was too much incompatibility. But I think that in the United States, I think the discussion that the Department of Energy is having is that there has to be some commonality, functionality between all of these sort of various brands and vehicles when you pull up to a charger, because you don't want to own a Porsche and then you can't charge it when you travel. You're kind of limited, right?
But Mike, so that is the complaint with Rivian right now.
Right.
That's the complaint with Rivian, right? I mean, and dude, it's beautiful. And I have a couple of neighbors that have some Rivian trucks. Okay. Mm-hmm. Very beautiful trucks. These things look badass. Okay. However, if you guys look up on YouTube, Rivian charge issues, watch what comes up. Jeez. You know what? Ford too. The electric F-150.
Yeah.
Who have you had a problem with his?
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, go ahead and read this. I'm gonna mute for just a minute, dude. I'm gonna be listening. I just gotta run a quick errand, but I'll be here.
All right, man.
Okay.
All right. This next item on the docket is from streetsblogs.org. Study how low-income people really use micromobility. Shared bikes and scooters are meeting low-income people's basic mobility needs, but they are not being subsidized like it. This is going to be a doozy. Low-income people are using shared micromobility a lot like they use public transit. A new study finds, and researchers think cities should thoroughly embrace and subsidize the mode as part of the larger ecosystem of buses and trains. Researchers at Monash University, using survey data from micromobility giant Lime, users across all income levels in the US, Australia, and New Zealand, dug deeper into how low-income people uniquely use the company's vehicles. Participants in the Lime Access program, which grants discounts of around 70 or 80% to riders who qualify, were significantly more likely to list essential reasons like shopping for groceries, 35%, and commuting, 31%, than non-access riders, 11 and 21% of whom rode to complete errands or go to work, respectively. Now, we talked about this earlier, that's the majority of use cases in most environments, that people are trying to make these short distance trips that they don't necessarily need a car for, but they don't necessarily want to walk either. So this article is right on the docket. The discount recipients were also unlikely to go use bikes and scooters for non-essential reasons like social outings, 12%, joyriding, 9%, or exploring, 2%, quashing the stereotype that all micromobility trips are spontaneously generated, and a whopping 44% of their trips connected to a traditional transit ride compared to just 23% of people who paid full price. Perhaps the most surprising finding, though, were riders' qualitative responses about what micromobility meant to them, and their lives were made better by having access to affordable ways to get around without a car. Calvin Thigpen, director of policy research for Lime and co-author of the report, says he was particularly moved by the number of rides with invisible disabilities who said Lime Access had helped them get where they needed to go, even when local transit schedules didn't meet their needs. Quote, something that really shone through in some of these quotes was how much people really needed this program and really came to rely on it, said Thigpen. It's easy for people to think of Lime and other shared scooter options like they are just toys that people just use for fun. And that's just really not the case. People are using this to get around for pivotal trips, and they are heavy, often daily users.
Hey, Mike,
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm in the car, but let me just get in on that point right there.
Mm-hmm.
I sent you pictures of the scooter that I just sold. This is the second scooter I sold to my customer. Like, I just gave it to him yesterday, right? Oh, I'm sorry, Friday. And so he rode it to work for the first day yesterday. And so I went over to the grocery store that he works at. I just went to go check in to see how his ride was and stuff. And bro, he raved about it, right? Like, and the reason why I wanted to kind of mention this is because when I delivered the scooter to him on Friday, dude, it was like legit. Like, he was like, dude, this is like, I got a new car today. Like, he sees this as a car. And so now this model has the ability, way bigger battery, twice the capacity of his old scooter, more power, faster, everything. He's a bigger dude. He's just like, dude, I got the perfect vehicle for me. So there is very much some validity to what you're hearing in this article right here and how people view this stuff.
About 62% of cities with micromobility programs today require operators to meet at least one equity requirement in order to run fleets, and discount programs like Lime Access have become an increasingly popular way for them to do it. In Chicago alone, Lime has offered roughly 400,000 discounted rides so far this year and saved participants a staggering $1.1 million. And according to the new analysis, all that money is buying something valuable: better daily mobility for people, for the people who are least likely to own private cars. We talked about this earlier. Those expiring benefits, though, come at a cost that micromobility companies' razor-thin margins can't always afford. Houston's B-Cycle and Minneapolis Nice Ride are just a few of the prominent bike share outfits to shut down in the wake of the recent financial difficulties. And the researchers say the entire micromobility industry is grappling with potentially existential risk to their ongoing operations while working to expand access to the riders who rely on them most. The roughly $7 million that Lime handed out in equity-focused discounts in 2022 didn't stop the company from achieving its first full profitable year. But Thigpen said the company could do a lot more for low-income Americans if cities simply recognize the impact shared micromobility has on their lives and treated it as an important component of the transit universe. Quote, I think that's something that would be very valuable, Thigpen added. It's something that transit agencies already do when they contract out to private bus operators or even private train operators. This would not be some novel thing. It will just be a new mode being integrated into transit. At the end of the day, that's really our goal, right? Our mission is to achieve a future of transportation that's shared, affordable, and sustainable. I think making micromobility a bigger part of transit is really, really a valuable approach. Enhancing public support for scooter and bike share, Thigpen stressed, can take many forms. Cities like Denver have completely waive program fees for micromobility operators in exchange for them meeting robust equity benchmarks and building parking corrals to keep scooters off sidewalks. While others, like Washington, D.C., offers them scaled refunds on that fee based on what percentage of miles low-income riders travel compared to the overall rider pool. He also just suggests that the growing list of U.S. cities offering residents rebates to buy their own e-bikes could expand the programs to offer e-bike share memberships to low-income riders, particularly for people who have no secure, convenient place to store an e-cycle of their own, don't want to lug a heavy e-scooter up a set of apartment stairs, or can't afford the expense of fixing an e-vehicle when it breaks down. Quote, "It seems like every city and state is getting on board with e-bike rebates these days," Thigpen said, or added. And I think it's worth asking the question, are they meeting the needs of everyone, and is there space for shared programs to participate? Could offering shared e-mobility memberships meet the needs of lower income riders, disabled riders, people who live in places where they can't securely lock up a vehicle? That's my speculation, but it definitely worth further study. Thigpen acknowledged that the cost is far from the only barrier to micromobility that low-income riders face, and that Lyme and cities can do more to help. Most access riders, 54%, reported frustration with not being able to find a vehicle when they need it, suggesting that cities may need to relax fleet caps and that operators may need to do a better job of reshuffling bikes and scooters into the neighborhoods where people need them the most. More than a third of them, 36%, said that they couldn't always take micromobility to the places they needed to go thanks to slow and the no ride zones that automatically throttle vehicle speeds when they pass invisible digital borders called geofences. And 75% of Lyme riders had never even heard of Access, including some who qualified for the program but hadn't signed up. Others struggled to sign up, something the company says it's addressing with targeted awareness campaigns through companies like Propel and a newly streamlined near instantaneous application process. The researchers didn't ask about whether fear of traffic violence or lack of bike lanes were significant barriers for access riders, but other analysis has found that definitely a factor. So here's the deal. The way you solve this issue with access is that the city and the state and the federal government have who is on SNAP benefits and who's not. That will tell you, that will tell you who needs access and how they can go about getting access and how you create that, that gap of getting people access. I mean, it's as simple as a text message. You send a text message with a bit.ly link, they click the bit.ly link, they sign up, and then they get registered that way, and then they get a QR code and they sign up and it's already said and done. That should take no more than 5 minutes.
Mike, I was telling you earlier, dude, like these companies, a lot of these companies, because because you have to go through public works, you're essentially a public utility. And because you're a public utility, you also have to accept like discounts for people that are on public assistance. So the how it works really with all these companies is that they just have to contact customer service and submit to them proof that they're on some sort of public assistance, a SNAP benefit, ID card, SSI, you name it, right? That's all they got to do. That's why you were saying, well, there's a way to determine it. And it's basically because the government knows who's on public assistance. And I'm like, exactly. And what you have to do in order to get that discount applied to your account, so every time you unlock, it doesn't charge you that dollar, it gives you that discount off rip. You have to provide proof that you are on said public assistance. You're absolutely right.
Or you can have people canvass the neighborhoods, right? When you start talking about students, K through 12, it's easy to understand where they are because they're inside the school system. all you know who's getting free lunch and who's not. If they're getting free lunch, it's more than likely that they're probably on SNAP assistance anyways. So this can be worked out in a various amount of ways. I think that when you have people who want to sandbag, progress, then you end up with these sort of gaps in transformation. This is becoming the problem. All right, next on the yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say just one last point to what you just said, right? By doing this, you're kind of sandbagging things, but then, by sandbagging things vis-a-vis that, you kind of curb like the progress and the progression of companies like ours, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there is kind of like a trickle down effect to all of this.
Because now we know it's not the car companies doing this.
Right.
It can't possibly be the car company. Car companies are going to benefit greatly from it. So they have a vested interest in moving the needle forward. But who's behind the scenes pulling the strings is really the question. All right, next item on the docket is from DC DCIS. DC Council passes bill that will subsidize your e-bike purchase. The DC Council unanimously approved a bill Tuesday that aims to get fewer cars and more e-bikes on DC streets. The legislation incentivizes residents to purchase e-bikes with a tiered subsidy program based on income, partially reimbursing residents for the cost of the bike. E-bikes, which make it easier to get up hills and generally allow a rider to arrive at their destination less sweaty, have risen in popularity in recent years. Families have downsized from 2-car households to 1 and an e-bike households. And cargo e-bikes can make transporting children or groceries easier, but they are not cheap. On average, an e-bike can cost between $1,000 and $2,000, while more expensive e-bikes can run upward of $10,000. Funding for the bill was already included in the fiscal year 2024 budget. The bill's author, Ward 6 council member Charles Allen, allocated $500,000 for the incentive program and stipulated that at least half of those dollars go towards e-bikes for residents who qualify for public assistance like SNAP and TANF. Didn't we just say that? Ward 2 council member Brooke Pinto had also introduced her own e-bike rebate bill earlier this year, but Allen, who chairs the council's transportation committee, ultimately came out on top. Despite the bill's passage today, the final details of the program, like when purchases will be eligible and when residents can apply for the subsidy, will be ironed out by the DC Department of Transportation, likely at some point in 2024. To account for residents who cannot afford the cost of an e-bike upfront and wait for a rebate, Allen's bill creates a voucher system for low-income purchasers. A resident would purchase an e-bike at the store with a DDOT issued voucher discounting the price, and DDOT would then reimburse the bike retailer directly. The legislation also allows DDOT to issue grants to bike shops to train more bike mechanics at local shops. Interesting. Here's a breakdown of the subsidies. For low-income residents eligible for SNAP and TANF, up to $2,000 for the purchase of qualifying cargo e-bike, up to $1,500 for the purchase of qualifying e-bike, up to $300 for a replacement battery, up to $250 for annual maintenance, up to $250 for e-bike parts to accommodate riders with disabilities. Interesting. Who has disabilities that's riding an e-bike? Let me find out.
Yeah.
Up to $150 for a bike lock. For all other residents, up to $1,000 for the purchase of qualifying cargo e-bike, up to $750 for the purchase of a qualifying e-bike, up to $150 for replacement battery, up to $125 for e-bike parts to accommodate riders with disabilities, up to $25 for annual maintenance, and up to $75 for a bike lock. This is probably one of the most robust bills I've seen for micromobility all year.
That was top to bottom right there. Typically, they're just like a voucher. Like Santa Monica just did that.
Mm-hmm.
Santa Monica just did that. I think for 2,000 residents,
mm-hmm.
they're providing vouchers.
Mm-hmm.
E-bike voucher, but I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much a template for how every other city should engage their micromobility, universal basic mobility agendas. That's the
That's
hallmark of
literally
it.
that's a no excuse reason to get a bike.
Yeah. But DC is a majority Black city, or at least at one point it was. And so we talked about Chicago, we talk about DC. DC is one of those areas that, Black people generally have some political control and can kind of make these sort of determinations and create the outcomes that they want. And so that's why, it's the politicization of micromobility that is important too, that we can't just look at the physical bike and like, oh, that's dope. No, well, somebody has to be able to afford to have it, or else they're going to start stealing your stuff. But if you subsidize, bikes and whatnot, then it makes a lot more sense in the long run. All right, this one is from CBC.Canada. E-scooter business officials trying to get more islanders to ride by the rules. 4 tickets issued in Charlottetown for not wearing helmets since regulations introduced. You see, I'm bringing this up. I added this to the docket because we have Philando Castile. We have a lot of Walter Scott in South Carolina, who was shot in the back. All of these things come because of traffic stops. These sort of incidents between law enforcement and Black men driving. Now the face of micromobility regulation has a Black male face on it.
Already?
You're looking at it right now. Okay. Epic Electric Scooters owner, the person you see in the picture, Tafauzi Salswa Impasso, says the company has added helmets, age verification, and a reaction test. Interesting. Okay. Nearly a year after the PEI government introduced regulations for electric kick scooters, officials and business owners are still coming up with ways to get more people to follow the rules. Quote, well, it's a lot of work for sure, said Impasso, who owns the Epic Electric Scooters in Charlottetown. But it's never too much work when you're ensuring that somebody is safe and you're not going to cause somebody to be injured. According to the regulations, e-scooters can't be used on sidewalks or Confederation Trail. Islanders must be at least 16 years old to drive them. They must wear a helmet, and they can't ride them while impaired, and passengers are not allowed. And Paso said ensuring people are old enough and getting them used to helmets has been challenging. So that's just more of a cultural issue. I don't consider that necessarily a people issue, because everybody I see on e-scooters and e-bikes, they have helmets. But the point that I'm making here is that when you write an article like this, and when you have an issue on the ground where you try to say that, trying to get more people to follow the rules, and Black men's face comes up, it's like, well, who are you really talking about? Right. And so the guys on the dirt bikes and the gas-based scooters become, who popping wheelies in the neighborhood, become the face of, micro transit, banditry or something like that, right? They're somehow trying to conflate like thug culture and this sort of outlaw culture with micromobility now. Like, oh well, you don't want to end up like these guys,
bro. That's why I laughed when I asked you. I was like, already?
Yeah.
Because all right. So like some of the riding gear that you've been sending me, right, bro? All of those promo photos and shit,
yeah,
right? The padded
hoodies,
sweater joints, the hoodies, right? The helmets and shit, bro. Who's modeling those things?
Black males.
Okay.
Right. So what kind of message are they trying to send? Right.
That's why I'm laughing, dude. I'm like, wait, really?
Yeah. Because we're going to start writing tickets for people who don't have helmets. Oh, wait a second here. Who are you talking about? Who are you talking about? We know that traffic stops In major areas, New York City, Chicago, LA, 80% of the traffic stops are of Black males and Latino males. So you could throw Black and brown in if you want to, but more often than not, Black men are the ones being stopped for traffic, having these traffic stops. And more often than not, they are the ones being killed in these traffic instances, traffic stop instances, citations or whatever it is supposed to be. Broken taillights, right? Well, not having a helmet becomes the new broken taillight.
That's the new broken taillight.
Right? And so now you have this confluence of micromobility in the Black community. And so now Billy Clubs may be...
Are we going to micro police?
Micromanage. Micromanage the micro transportation in the end user, right? And that end user may very well be this person that you see on screen, even though he owns the scooter brand, but his face becomes that of, we need regulation because of this.
Right. It ain't like the drunk white folks like in Santa Monica, dude, like slamming into the ground because they getting on scooters drunk and shit. It's never them, right? Yeah. And then trying to the city because, you know, they screwed up their face and now they got to get dental work and all this kind of stuff, right? No, it's not them.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to throw that on there because I thought that, you know, it's interesting to see that the way Black men are being utilized in, you know, promos and articles now when it comes to like microtransportation.
That's interesting. Hey, Mike, you want to speak on that, dude? Because like I said, man, you have been sending me like different types of gear and shit that you were like encountering and stuff, right? And then when I'm looking at like the marketing materials and the photos and stuff, it's always brothers.
The Lupe fiasco thing, like we were mentioning earlier, has become the catalyst for like adoption of new just emerging things, right? Like when you think about like Black Panther, right? Marvel's Black Panther, Black men became the face of like superheroes and stuff like that, right? And so I think the usage of Black male faces in the promotion of micromobility is actually a good thing, but I also think that it's an easy thing to sell when you talk about influence, right? Because you can't sell white boys today to Black males. It doesn't really work that way. Or even for most demographics now, like white males are not the go-to image for anything anymore.
It's right. It's everything's more or less influencer based, right?
Yeah.
And we're kind of product driven, not so much like what you're talking about, like just like, oh yeah, it's those dudes, so they must know type shit. That's like, nah.
Yeah. Because the rappers like Lil Uzi Vert and Soulja Boy at one point, they were, trendy, right? They were doing things. They were riding around on the hoverboards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
So now you see that, he's young and he's cool. He's a Zennial, and other folks also like this sort of image too, right? This sort of Black male,
forward thinking.
Well, maybe so. This sort of black boy joy, right? This sort of Black boy is really happy. He's riding around, because I sent you another video from YouTube too, where you had this Black boy doing stunts on
e-bike.
Yeah, on an e-bike. I think it was a Canyon or something like that. And that's what I'm saying. Like everybody's looking to post George Floyd. Every company is looking to promote their product with Black males now. They are now the face of cool. Before it would have been like Josh Harlow or, Humphreys, the one that was dating the Kardashian.
The baller,
And he's not even in the league anymore, right? Then you can't really sell that anymore, right? You can't sell Gordon Hayward and stuff like that. That's running around with headphones. That doesn't work anymore. Now it's Marquise Brownlee. Now it's, these young black males who kind of look like rappers, but they're not rappers, and they just kind of look really cool and hip. Now I think that's where we are right now with the promote. And I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. Maybe you might probably see a Latino get thrown in there, but I don't see the imagery of black males disappearing anytime soon. I think this is going to be be around for the foreseeable future.
Hey, Mike, maybe just a quick suggestion. So for like the next one, maybe what we'll do is we'll pull up some of those the marketing materials or the articles where they were showing the brothers like kind of modeling all this sort of next level gear and helmets and all that kind of shit. Just to kind of like give people a visual of what we're talking about. Like I'm talking about for like another live stream.
Yeah, let me get to this next item on the docket. This is from WAPT.com. Rental scooters popping up in downtown Jackson. Company needs to follow proper protocol, Mayor says. Rental scooters have been spotted around downtown Jackson, but the company behind them has apparently not gotten city permission to operate. Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba said a company called Goat Scooters did not put in the proper filings to rent out scooters in downtown Jackson. According to the company's Instagram, the scooters have been available for the city for rent in the city since last October. Lumumba said the company needs to follow proper protocol to legally rent out the scooters. Quote, whomever is seeking if a business of that type with the city, just do it right. Get signed up with the city, and we look forward to inviting you in the fold, Lumumba said. Chloe Dotson, Jackson's director of planning and development, said, we have to have that conversation, write an ordinance for the use of those scooters downtown and elsewhere in the city to ensure that both the user and of the scooter and the residents within the city are safe. Goat Scooters shared a copy of an approved business license occupancy permit with the city of Jackson. The city's planning and development department was looking to see if any further permits were required. The mayor said they are not opposed to having the scooters because they give people more options for transportation. So I think, just as a backstory to this, Jackson is the largest Black city in the United States at 87%. Okay, when you have scooters being offered, this becomes the part of the confluence of micromobility and the Black community. So what does this mean? What were you going to say, Complex?
I think maybe on two different occasions during this conversation we've been having, I mentioned public works, the public works division of the city government, and that's who you have to go through, right? You see, so when they say, I'm reading this, and you have a city official saying, hey, you guys didn't get the proper permits for all this. And then the company says, well, we have the business license. I'm sorry, we're not talking about the business license. That's easy to get. What's hard to get is the permit, because you know what goes along with that? There's an insurance stipulation. So just so you guys know, like if you think we're full of shit, then we haven't done this. Let me tell you guys how it works. So if you're going to be putting vehicles in a public space, that means on like sidewalks and stuff, that's public space. Guess what? You have to have insurance on that device that's in that public space. It's not even about whether somebody's riding it and gets into an accident. I mean, we can have that conversation. But what if somebody just trips over the damn thing, knocks their head on the sidewalk, and like starts bleeding out everywhere and shit? Yeah, you know what? You need to have insurance that covers that. Okay? So it's very important that when you're going to be sticking scooters out in a public space, that you got the proper permits from the Public Works office. And that means that you also provided the requisite insurance. So in the market where we were in, the insurance for 100 scooters for our fleet was $1 million. I'll tell you, it was $1 million. That's what the policy requirements were. I highly doubt, based on what I was just hearing right there, that they provided all of that and got all the public permits and all that stuff together, because all they simply mentioned was that, well, we have a business license. That literally will not only get your business canned, but get you sued.
Absolutely. All right, this other item on the docket, I just wanted to throw this in here as a point of reference for the confluence of micromobility in the Black community. Meet the founders of Black-owned electric scooter sharing company, Verve Scooters, 2 Black men. The coronavirus pandemic has affected each one of us in ways we were not able to imagine. We were not imaginable not even a year ago. Luckily for some, the pandemic has provided opportunities to utilize technology to gain a distinct advantage. With current social distancing protocols in place, Verve Scooters offers transportation that's both efficient and allows for social distancing. Verve Scooters, which offers dockless electronic scooters, was created to help reduce traffic congestion and offer a more environmentally friendly method of transportation for its users. The company is run by Kevin Thompson, CEO, and Naeem Stratham, COO, and music executive, Tykeem Tack Williams, co-founder, and former NBA champion Rasheed Wallace is an investor in the company. Verve Scooters is one of the
Whoa. Rasheed Wallace is investing in micromobility.
Yeah, Mr. Block Captain.
Okay.
Verve Scooters is one of the few Black-owned scooter companies in the United States and presently the only Black-owned scooter company targeting inner cities to create pathways of success for people outside of suburban areas.
Yeah, that's not true. Anyway, go ahead.
Black Enterprise spoke to the founders of the company to discuss their recent venture and plans for Verve Scooters. How did Verve Scooters venture come to fruition, and how has the business been since the coronavirus pandemic took over the country? Verve Scooters came to fruition because we saw a need for an effective, eco-friendly way of transportation for our community that was also affordable. With the safety risk of the coronavirus pandemic rapidly impacting every community, it gave Verve the continued motivation in furthering our efforts to gather the community and cultivate more job opportunities for previously incarcerated and inner city youth. As entrepreneurs, what was the path that led the two of you to become partners in this venture, and how does your previous background help you? We have always been interested in ways that would help support the families in our communities. We see the need to put the strength and confidence back into the inner city, in inner city family. It was a no-brainer for us to partner with somebody who has so much experience in the music industry and also has aligned aspirations for our community. They only show the negativity of hip hop, but they don't show how this is a huge community. Also, it has many benefits, with one being a way to reach the youth. What would you say would be the most important factor that will drive the success of Verve Scooters? One of the driving forces for us to be successful business owners is the weight of being the first Black-owned mobile tech company. We have a passion for making change for the environment, which is why we take pride in being eco-friendly. We also want to help Black communities thrive, which is why we hire previously incarcerated people and people in our neighborhoods to provide alternative solutions for them. Verve Scooters is also COVID-friendly with a single-person use. If someone were to come up to you for suggestions on how to be a successful business owner, what advice would you give that person? The best advice we can give is that success is not a competition, it's a journey. It's important to do more than just make things a hustle. It's essential to find your niche because nothing can exist without thought. If you have to understand the industry and where it is in the current climate we live in. Whether industries are oversaturated and what demographics the industry serves. That also includes whether or not you may have to relocate to successfully develop this industry. We would also say to not be afraid of to be the trailblazer into a new industry, and to make sure to look for sustainability and build the infrastructure for generational wealth. With Verve Scooters approaching the anniversary of its launch, what is the future for the company? And are there any plans to branch off to other companies or ventures? We plan to start an investment group for young minorities and returning citizens to get into the tech industry and become entrepreneurs. We hopefully plan for the future to be in Tyler Perry Studios among many other communities. We also want to provide transportation and help provide infrastructure in undeveloped countries in Africa. Well then.
Listening to the brain. Are you listening to the brain trust?
Well then.
Really listen? No, I'm just saying, have they been listening to the brain?
Your volume is very low, Complex.
Hold on. Sorry about that. I said, were they listening to the brain trust? I'm being facetious, but wow.
Yeah, this is from 2020. This is from 3 years ago. So what we know here is this. We have not been wrong about anything we've talked about in regards to micromobility and other emerging tech and geopolitics. All of these articles are bang on the money. We were talking about micromobility 2 years before this article even came out.
2018.
Okay. These guys, we have never met, never crossed paths with, see the market the same way we see it too. How is it possible that Rasheed Wallace, and other hip hop artists were like, yeah, I think this is a good idea to invest in. And then when we say it, oh, that ain't nothing, I don't know. I think it's just the environment, let's say the digital environment, right? In Black male social spaces, I think the problem is that they need to see a working product before they believe something rather than understand the concept before it even gets off the ground.
Okay, right? But Mike,
mm-hmm.
what if the working product is in existence though? Then what? I mean, we've covered a multitude. Dude, I remember a live stream we did. This was maybe like March. I want to say it was back in March of this year, and it was a brother on the East Coast that launched his own e-bike fleet in a small city. You remember that article?
Yeah.
Right. So it's been use cased already, not only on this platform but elsewhere. And that article we just read right there. Apparently, this article right here is going to be in line with what we're talking about right now. So I'm just saying, dude, the use cases, there's been so many examples, and not only just in, say, micromobility, but Spark Charge, brother Kidget, right? We've talked about all the ancillary type of platforms that we're pioneering and getting into also. Where's the, I don't know what the argument is.
Super chats and cash apps. Support the show. All right, this is from Detroit Free Press.
Yeah,
this is from
he's one of the first brothers.
Yeah, this is from 2021. So I'm just circling back around. Black-owned e-scooter company in Detroit was inspired by bloody crash scene. There are now 6 brands of rental e-scooters cruising the sidewalks and streets of Detroit, up from none 4 years ago. All but one are stand-up scooters. For the casual rider, those brands are more or less interchangeable aside from differing color schemes, logos, and smartphone apps to download and constantly update. The other company, Boaz Bikes, is unique in its design as well as its founder's backstory. Most notably, it's the only e-scooter in the city with a seat for riders and a basket for carrying things. The company says its sit-down scooters are safer than regular scooters and accessible to more potential riders. This is a picture of one of the brothers working on it. Boaz is
up on that too. That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, but Boaz also is one of the few Black-owned e-scooter companies in the country and one of only one of only two that are headquartered in Detroit and not the West or East Coast. The other Detroit company, C-Max Scooters, has just 20 of its stand-up scooters deployed in downtown, but hopes to double that number soon. Boaz founder and CEO Emil Nanani, 32, who grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, has had one of the most unique journeys to becoming an e-scooter company founder. He is a former Bloods gang member who, after serving stints in juvenile jail for robbery, found Christ and became a Christian hip-hop artist known as Ifedi. Prior to starting Boaz, Nanani had a Christian apparel business that he eventually sold in an errands on-demand startup based in Dallas, where he resides with his wife and family when not in Detroit. Since COVID-19 hit, Detroit has been the only city where Boaz fleet of 400 scooters operates. However, the company plans to deploy in Los Angeles later this fall, then expand to other cities next year if and when it can obtain more investment. Last year, Boaz pulled out of Plano, Texas, as well as Atlanta, which declared all e-scooters non-essential businesses early on in the pandemic. The company had then doubled down on Detroit after the initial wave of the COVID-19 subsided. Quote, in Detroit, we were considered an essential business, Nanani said. People needed to get around. Nanani's idea for Boaz came after witnessing a nasty e-scooter crash in Dallas in 2018 that involved a young person in a sidewalk. He recalls seeing blood everywhere and the injured rider leaving by ambulance. Quote, I was thinking, man, how unsafe these scooters were. And for this person, life was going to be difficult, Nanani said. I got to be researching and I saw articles everywhere about accidents on Bird and Lime scooters. I was like, okay, I can create something safer. Boaz is a biblical reference and the result of brainstorming for the perfect four-letter name for the new mobility startup. This is a picture of the rear end of the scooter. You've got the Ubers, the Lyfts, the Birds, and the Limes. Everybody has a four-letter word, he said. And me being a believer, Boaz is a biblical character. He was married to a lady named Ruth, and he was strong and he was wealthy. And so I said, I'm running with Boaz. Yeah, Boaz, the e-scooter company, is still very much an underdog compared to the big nationwide e-scooter companies such as Bird and Lime and Ford-owned Spin.
Boom.
Bird and Lime have raised hundreds of millions in venture capital, which gave them the ability to quickly deploy in dozens of cities around nationwide and internationally. They continue to burn through great volumes of cash by focusing on growth, not profitability. That approach was never an option for Boaz. Nanani called how, after he co-designed and built an early Boaz sit-down scooter and an app prototype in late 2018 with China-based partners. He knew from his early business ventures, he made a visit to San Francisco in hopes of meeting venture capitalists and getting investment. But lacking Silicon Valley connections, he met an indifferent reception. How many times have we talked about this? Black people Black people receive less than 1% of venture capital. Less than 1% of venture capital. He ran into the same problems that many other Black people, especially Black men, run into, is the lack of social capital and the lack of access to financial capital to get your project off the ground, while everybody else from Airbnb can run around with failed businesses and get billions and billions of dollars, and nobody wants to talk about that though in this space. It's really just a relationship model, and it's all about who you know. Nanani said, if you're not in that network, if you didn't go to that school, if you don't know the connections from the people who graduated from that school, I was completely out of that circle. Growing desperate, he at one point tried posing as an Uber Eats delivery man in an attempt to sneak past building security and deliver his Boaz pitch to a venture capitalist. The ploy nearly worked, he said, until he was stymied by a key card reader in the elevator to the venture capitalist office. Nanani returned home from that trip empty-handed. We would probably be in, I don't know, 50 cities by now if we had that venture capital backing, he said. He later managed to raise about $350,000 from friends, family, and acquaintances, which was enough to order from China his first batch of 500 Boaz scooters in 2019. He soon deployed those scooters in 3 cities, Detroit, Atlanta, and Plano, Texas. Until that time, Nanani had never before visited Detroit. He launched in the Motor City at the suggestion of an early Boaz investor, Travis Wilder, who lives in the Metro Detroit and owns the Christian apparel lines God Got Me in Spiritual Sports.
No, Mike, just real quick, man. I gotta commend the brother because he had to do it the get your hands dirty way. He literally had to go to China and get it himself. Kudos to you, brother, because you know that you got the full scope of how this works. Now you got the full scope.
Wilder had been following Nanani on social media and watching the growth of Nanani's early apparel company, Christ-like clothing. Quote, he had a Christian clothing line, and I also have a Christian clothing line. So I was really really intrigued by him, and we both shared similar views on our religious background, Wilder said. Wilder wasn't surprised to learn about Nanani's struggles to get the attention of venture capitalists. Quote, a lot of times in life, it's not what you know, it's who you know, Wilder said. So if you don't have some of those relationships, it can be tough to get VCs to even look your way. Nanani twice applied to the popular ABC TV show Shark Tank for a shot at gaining investment. His 2020 pitch was initially accepted, he said, but ultimately turned down because of the show rules concerning past criminal convictions. A representative for Shark Tank didn't respond to Free Press message for seeking comment.
So wait, Mike. Another instance where, something like a social issue prevented a brother from access to capital.
Actually,
basically.
Not a social issue, but critical race theory would identify that the structures of the system prevented him from having access to the capital that he needs.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, because the basis of that was that, well, you befouled the law in the past, right? See, so now no capital for you. Well, basically, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Boaz was operating in its initial 3 cities, with plans to expand it to Dallas when the pandemic hit in March 2020. Quote, so we halted everything and pulled out of all of the cities, Nanani said. For a few months, we're just sitting there, and I'm thinking what to do next and what's the pivot. And that's when I decided to double down on Detroit. Boaz scooters reappeared on Detroit streets in June 2020, this time in greater numbers, and ridership grew. A Boaz ride cost $1 to start and then 33 cents per minute. Surveys showed that about 80% of Boaz rides are taken for fun, with about 15% for transportation to work. Keep in mind, this is 2020. In an interview last week inside the Boaz storage and repair garage in the Russell Industrial Center, Nanani declared that the company is now doing more business in Detroit than all of the other e-scooter brands here. Asked how he was so certain, Nanani laughed and said he's not at liberty to reveal his sources. Quote, let's say it's an assumption because we don't know what Lime is doing, he said, but we know we are beating Bird and Spin. Representative for Spin and Lime wouldn't comment about the Boaz claim, and Bird didn't respond. To grow its scooter fleet, Boaz launched in a crowdfunding campaign in late 2020 that raised about $1.2 million from 4,000 investors. The company also raised an additional $700,000 from general investors, he said, and its latest valuation was $35 million. E-scooter leaders Bird and Lime burned through piles of investors' cash pursuing an expand at all costs business strategy known in Silicon Valley as blitzscaling. To date, Bird has yet to become profitable, and Lime has reported only one quarter that it wasn't in the red. Boaz, by comparison, never had the option of running massive losses for the sake of fast expansion. Nanani said, the company's operations are currently profitable. One reason is Boaz's monthly scooter loss rate, which at about 2% is below the industry's common 5 to 10% rate, he said. He credited the lower rate to the durability of the sit-down scooter design and his staff's close attention to the health of the Boaz fleet. Quote, we still have some vehicles from 2019, he said. We are so small, we have no choice but to look at everything. We can't afford to lose a vehicle.
There you go.
Nani said Boaz saves money by using an in-house staff of about 9 people to do scooter retrievals, battery chargings, and repairs. Other companies such as Bird hire gig workers to be fleet managers, which Nanani said can get costly because of the significant revenue splitting.
Yeah, see, he was doing it different, bro. Like if you got 9 dudes like literally doing various rounds to collect shit, like that's how you retain your fleet. Like we could do a whole deep dive on fleet operations and stuff another time, but like he's doing it right, because like I said, he had to go the Spartan route, like the way we did it, dude. Like you had to go and get your shit, get the integration, do all that, get your app together. He did it all himself, so he knows the ins and outs. So because of this, he's gonna basically be attentive to every asset that's out in the field. Okay. Soon as that app buzzes on the admin app, it buzzes, you know, hey, scooter offline, scooter outside of geofence, something like that. Hey, dude, hey, go get that right now. Go get it. You know what I mean? Because every asset is money, bro. Like you have to like essentially make the money back on an asset before you can either write it off, and you don't even want to write it off then, because see, once it's free and cleared, then you want it, then it's perpetual profit at that point, that one particular asset. So each one, that's how you look at it. So at a 2% loss rate, I can see how he's making profit.
Well, it's a horrible model, but it works for them because they don't care about making money. They care about expanding and growing, he said. Investors have recently been warming to Boaz and said, and Nanani said the company is looking to try again with venture capitalists through a Series A financing round in the coming months to likely raise between 10 and $20 million to build about 10,000 more scooters and expand beyond Detroit, beyond just Detroit and Los Angeles. We will start talks in November and December and kick the round open in January, and we hope it closes with 30 days of opening the round, he said. The LA scooter deployment set for later this fall is being financed from Boaz crowdfunding. Those who participated in the crowdfund can see future paydays under several possible scenarios, he said, such as a Series B round that buys out earlier investors in acquisition of Boaz, or if the company goes public. Bird is preparing to go public on the New York Stock Exchange through a blank check company known as a SPAC at a possible $2 billion plus valuation. Lime also sought to go public through a SPAC, according to the news reports, but encountered difficulties and that plan stalled. In the near future, Boaz plans to debut its first stand-up scooter, which has 3 wheels and a deck similar to a wide skateboard. Nanani insisted these devices are safer than conventional stand-up scooters and that the first 25 will be deployed later this year around Wayne State University. So there it is.
They technically are safer because they stand on their own. So anything that's 3-wheeled is technically, by definition, self-standing. Yeah. So it balances itself basically by design. So they are safer. So this dude's kind of ahead of the curve on a lot of shit. But I mean, this is from 2021, but I actually talked to one of their guys maybe like about a year ago. just to see if they had gotten the final okays for Los Angeles. I'm not sure whatever happened with that. You know, we got caught up with our own stuff, but no, but Boaz, I kind of reacted to that other article. I was like, "What are you talking about? You guys are the first guys." I'm like, "No, you're not." Because my first thought was Boaz bikes. These guys.
Yeah. No, I just think that the articles were written at a different time.
Yeah, that's all it is, dude. It's the articles when they were written.
Yeah. Because I'm covering this today. We're covering this today because there's a there to this. We've been talking about this since the inception of this channel. These guys are seeing it the same way we're seeing it. How can anybody ever question the legitimacy of what we're covering? Right? And so I don't know. I just think that when Black men talk about doing business and I'm all about the business, we've tried to do business in the manosphere a while back, and I can tell you right now, 7 Candles wasn't receptive to doing business. Okay. Lace front beard wasn't receptive to doing business at all. Okay. We were called snobs, business snobs. You're just too snobbish. You guys are all about business and stuff like that. What's all this business talk? Really? High value men, right? But all this business talk, you guys are snobs, right? So I'm making light of this. And
Mike, get out of there. Get out of there. Get out of there, bro.
I'm poking fun at this, but I'm saying what I'm seeing on screen and some of the content that we covered. Jackson, Mississippi is trying to get these scooters to be the biggest Black city in America.
Hey, wait. Mike, what's the over and under that the guy not Christie's going to stop that?
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Hey-oh. Sorry.
Right? And you got these other guys, Verve out in Philly doing it, with e-scooters, e-bikes, I should say, e-scooters and e-bikes. You got
specific rides on the West Coast.
You got Black males being the face of, like micromobility crimes or something like that, moving violations, right?
Oh, shit.
There's something to be discussed here, right? So we're kind of code breaking all of this down so that people can understand that this is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Mike, that's a pretty heavy statement, bro. I just kind of soaked that in just now. And like, let's keep it a buck, dude. That's very true. You got Cass that's pioneering it. And like I said, man, look, I'll pop my collar on this shit. As well as Mike, everybody here, man, Anti-Grav, everybody over on the Brain Trust, because, dude, before this shit, look, I'm saying this article's from 2021. When we started really pushing this narrative, that was 3 years prior to this. When that other article that we read, that was 2020. When we started, it was 2 years prior to that. We come from the startup side of the game. We saw it from the ground level up. So for us, it's more like, this is all, like Mike was just saying, this is all validation of what we've been saying this whole time.
Yeah. And
every time we pull up an article or something, every time Mike shoots me some new gear, some new helmets, some new this, some new that, I always see a brother rocking the shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it a buck. I always see a brother rocking it. I'm seeing we the face of this. Apparently good and bad, right, Mike?
Well, I'm hoping that these brothers are still around, because all of the e-bike rebates and stuff like that is starting to be doled out and being factored into public policy. They just came in at the wrong time, right? And so they have to go about it the ski mask way. They kind of renegade raising funds, through a renegade perspective, because they don't have access to Silicon Valley. We've talked about this extensively, that the biggest hurdle to all of this is access to capital. And you got a lot of people in here who are pretending like, oh man, high value this and high value that. And I'm like, there's no way you're telling me that you're moving numbers like these guys are. No way.
No. If you put the bread up for it to do it, that's why that's why I respect this cat right here that started this company, man. That's why I reached out to him, dude. It's like over a year ago. This is some time back. But you know, it's like I respect it because he did it the way we had to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why? Because the capital wasn't there.
We get less than 1% of the $500 billion in venture capital that floats around the VC spaces. Less than 1%. So he didn't have access to the capital primarily because he doesn't have the right face to be in those spaces.
Well, remember, Mike, they also tried to hold over his head the fact that he had a criminal past.
Well, regardless if he has a criminal of that part, because Black people without criminal records also don't have access to it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not it's not an issue of his background, but it's the issue of his face. He doesn't have the right face, right? And so, what I'm saying here is, and we've covered this many times before about Black business, and you know, I had to kind of kick somebody off the panel about a year or so ago. Came on here with a little bit too much liquor in the system, trying to argue that, you know, what I'm saying is wrong. And I'm saying Black people getting less than 1% of venture capital is a problem. That's why a lot of Black men can't get off the ground, can't they can't actually hit the market the same way like Airbnb. They can't hit the market the same way like Airbnb and Theranos, who get billions of dollars for failed startups. Think about that. Failed startups. One failed startup raised more money in capital than any other Black business combined, Black startup combined.
So Mike,
America,
here's what you do. You get
in America and in Africa combined.
So Mike, you get the money to fail, basically. You literally get the money to fail. You get all the money you need to succeed. And because it was so easy to access the capital, you really didn't like take a zero-based budget approach to it to ensure that every penny spent is accounted for. When you just get the money to use case it, to try to prove that it's a viable thing, typically you're going to flame out. That's what a lot of these companies get. They get the startup capital, and they're the new sexy whatever. They want to get people invested, involved in all this and all that. But the reality is that at the end of the day, you got to have a customer base. You got to have a user base. You have to have a use case.
Well, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about structural racism is what's preventing Black people from getting off the ground. That regardless of the business case.
Mike, I'm merely speaking to the people who do get access to the capital. Now let's talk about what you're saying.
I'm saying they get access to capital. I'm saying from an Airbnb and Theranos standpoint, primarily because primarily because they're white. That's it. Because if you look at their business, if you look at their business model, it was vaporware, right? And I'm not saying hold on a second. I'm saying Airbnb, but I should be saying WeWork. WeWork,
yes.
Yeah, WeWork as a startup failed during the pandemic because nobody was going into the office. All remote work had taken over, right?
But Mike, they said that the WeWork model even prior to that was literally on shaky ground. Yeah. The only thing that happened was the pandemic exposed it.
Yeah. And Theranos got exposed when they couldn't produce a product.
Yes. Yep.
Right. And so one white woman, an Anglo-Saxon woman, could raise more capital.
Billions.
And nobody seems to know where the money is right now. She's not spilling the beans, and she's not even, going to jail. She's running around rubbing her belly and stuff.
But wait a minute. Wait a minute. I thought she got sentenced.
I think they delayed the sentencing because
she's pregnant.
Because she was pregnant at the time. But what I'm saying here is,
okay. All right.
What I'm saying here is, this is not about business modeling. This is about
it's just
venture capitalists looking at white people and saying, and head nodding, and having proximity bias. This sort of perspective that says, "Oh, well, you're white. I trust you. I trust everything that comes out of your mouth," despite the fact that what he's saying isn't legitimate, and then the pandemic exposes it, and people say, "Oh, well, the pandemic, just kind of messed us all up." No,
some companies came up.
yeah, because Bird and Lime and Spin got major capital investment, despite the fact that they were burning through the capital with this growth model.
Don't get me to talking.
Whereas a black man comes in with the same business model and can't
get me to talking.
Right? And so when I hear people in the space talk about, high value men and black men, listen, man, we're talking billions of dollars here.
Yo.
We're talking billions of dollars here on the table, and you're talking about super chats and cash apps. But we're not in the same league. When we're talking about business, we're not in the same league. We're just not, we're not in the same galaxy.
Look, that's why I have to keep bringing up, like, look, homeboy got froze out. That's why I'm like, Mike, I'm not disagreeing with you at all, dude.
Yeah.
Because that point that you made was perfect. Because check this out. Let's compare and contrast for a second. That chick, Elizabeth something, whatever, from Theranos, Holmes, from Theranos, the company. I want to say it was like close to $3 billion.
$9 billion. $9 billion.
Oh, excuse me?
$9 billion.
Okay. And they don't know where the money went.
They can't find the majority of it is gone.
She got prosecuted, but I guess she's on some kind of stay because she got knocked up, right? But homie, did he lose $9 billion, Mike? When he got froze out of some capital because I guess he had a little felon or some shit. Did he mismanage $9 billion? Is that what he did?
No.
Okay. All right. I just want to highlight the disparity here. I just want to highlight the disparity here, Mike. That's all. Because I just want to highlight your point that you're making.
Yeah, his name was hard to pronounce for them, and his company name didn't ring a bell to them, right? And so, although he had passed the initial round with Shark Tank, why didn't they, Fubu founder, why didn't he get behind it? Offline. Right? Like, there's so many, there's so many moving pieces here. It's like, it's not moving fast enough that I can't see that there's some structural issues here, right? And so now with this new administration, you're seeing a lot of money put out on the table now. Now you got cities and states, e-bike vouchers, e-scooter vouchers, micromobility vouchers. That's going to greatly benefit these guys if they're still in business.
But
they
wait,
just came
and
in
then
at the
you
wrong
also
time.
see, but Mike, you see what we've been covering as of late and who the face is. Right. Let's go back to a point from just about 10, 15 minutes ago, right? Who's the face of this? Like I said, every time you send me some shit, dog, I'm like, word, dude, like, check this out. Right? You see, so people go, like it's bad to vote your interests. Well, I don't know. I'm starting to see this industry really kind of focalized on us. Yeah. Just based on even marketing material, bro. I know that's prima facie, but Mike, like I said, dude, every time you send me some shit, it's always a brother.
Yeah, because they're capitalizing off our likeness, right? They're capitalizing off the likeness. You can easily sell a young black male with colorful dreads and hip clothing on a scooter, and everybody's like, oh shit,
yo shit, yeah.
Right. And it's like, oh, you got my undivided attention. But we're not actually getting access to the capital that's necessary to be the legitimate front runners on this. And so we're not just covering articles because we're bored and this is some kind of hobby. We're synthesizing all of this information so that you have tangible, perspective when you go out after you log off, so that you have a tangible perspective as to what's happening. Because if you don't understand all the nuances involved in this that we're code breaking, you're not going to be able to engage any industry at all. If this guy and these other ones that we're talking about having difficulty having access to capital, you can't tell me that anything about high value. I never want to hear anybody in the space talk about high value ever again after today. in the future, nothing. I don't ever want to hear anybody talk about high value.
Okay,
In seven
Mike,
candles. In 7 candles.
7 candles. Damn, we ain't said that shit in a minute. Hey, hey, I got a question for you. All right, let's take micromobility and let's take like Web 1.0, like the advent of e-commerce and shit, right?
Okay.
Where would you gauge micromobility at this stage with regards to, say, like the e-commerce era 1.0, Web 1.0 kind of? I'm talking about like the development of the industry. Where would you gauge it at? Like around what year? Like where would you kind of like, where do you see this at? I want your
this
take
is
on
in the third. This is the third iteration of micro. I mean, if you're talking about AI-based scooters and bikes, that's a third phase.
Mm-hmm.
That's a third and fourth phase now. Before bikes were just pretty much dumb. There was a battery in them, and then you just kind of paid for it, and then you just rode off. Now you got bikes that can actually adapt to your environmental settings and manage BMSs, battery management systems.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have all that before when this was first started. That was unheard of. People discharge and that's where you see a lot of these fires coming from. Faulty batteries, cheap
cheap cells.
Yeah, mixing materials, not really doing enough research.
Well, hacking the batteries, right? So trying to parallel two different batteries that have different the outputtages and stuff like that. Yeah. That's what when people start doing that, like, dude, like just for you guys that are listening, if you're ever gonna try to like parallel batteries on your e-bike or your e-scooter, make sure you match the same cells together. Okay. Yeah. So if your scooter has a 36 volt 10 amp hour battery, if you want to double the capacity, get another 10 amp hour 36 volt battery. Don't get anything bigger or smaller. Otherwise, you're gonna have a fire. That's just little tidbit there. Because that's where that shit's coming from oftentimes when people start hacking up their own shit.
Yeah. So, but to answer your question, I think we're in the third and fourth phase of micro transportation. You're seeing a lot. The government is on board now. Before, the government was not on board. Now the government is on board. I was going
to say that voucher program, that was the most comprehensive shit I've seen to date.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So now you're talking public policy based industrialization, public policy based, right? And now, although this brother went to China, for example, you're starting to see some of this manufacturing come back on shore.
It's coming back. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, because now you have 3D printing, which, we covered an article last month in the last micromobility talk with guys from Cleveland building their own e-bikes. And they source all of 80%,
the scrambler joints, right?
Yeah, the 80% of their supply chain was domestic and with local, right? And so we're starting to see a shift. And even then, like this other e-bike company, e-motorcycle company, how did they get all their investment, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, all of this is structural, but if you listen to certain content creators, they'll have you believing that, the economy is this in disarray, inflation, and, but high value men are winning, right? If you leave it up to them, they'll tell you that story, but there's no real substance and evidence-based material to really tell you that they're telling the truth. Because,
but Mike, I'm sorry, finish up because I have a question. Go ahead, finish up.
Yeah. So there's no real citing of sources to really determine whether or not they're telling the truth. But we've covered this many times before that Black people are not getting access to capital. It's not the same as working a 9-to-5 job. You can't if you make whatever it is per hour that you make, you can't afford to take what you make per hour and then pour all of that into a startup and then say, oh, well, we're doing just fine. Impossible.
No, it's
impossible.
Trust me, Anti-Grav and I, we did it. We tried it. And bro, I'm going to tell you like this. We had to get extremely creative. But even then, we found our limits. there's limits to it, dude.
But you can't scale it, right? And so the blitz scaling,
That's what I'm saying.
Bird,
Yeah, you can't. There's limits. Yeah,
right. That Bird and Lime and Spin were doing, that works for them because they have plenty of venture capital coming in, like a waterfall. With Black startups, it's not the same.
Bird acquired Ford's startup in micromobility. Let that sink in.
It probably, what I'm saying is they had the ability to do that. But if you're a Black startup,
well, that's the point, right? Mike.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Mike. Like you don't have that level of flexibility financially to do it. And so that's what I'm saying about, I'm poking fun at the high value conversation primarily because a lot of folks in this space will, high value men, the manosphere is having this big impact. And I'm like, well, I'm seeing brothers struggle to really get their stuff off the ground and no one's really concerned about that.
Well, Mike, so that was my question. That was going to be my question, right? Mm-hmm. This notion of the concept of a high value man, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think in the 3.0 space, it works a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Would you want to elaborate on the differences between the two?
Let's say it one more time.
I said I think it works differently, right? Because like because you're questioning that. And I'm like, dude, I've always had that question, right? Because it's sort of like, okay, I think high value would be in the spaces where there's a large growth trajectory, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of like in the venue where we do our content, right? Because we've covered article after article after article after article literally today, pointing to this.
Yeah.
The proof is literally there, right? That in our own activities, versus that other side of what you were lampooning, which is why I was laughing about it, right? And so what I wanted you to do is just maybe kind of highlight the virtues of the two, right? Because on one side, like you made a point, it was just like, okay, yeah, you're high value, but you can't get your shit off.
Yeah, and that's basically what that's basically the crux of all of this, right? Is that
right?
We're actually talking about things that are realistic. What you see on screen is actual Black men who's involved in that industry, right? And he's telling you all of the pitfalls that are involved in all of this. But if you let these, and I don't want to make it a Manosphere 2.0 versus 3.0. I'll stay away from that. But if my bad. Yeah. If you let certain pundits tell the story, they'll tell you money world, right? Everybody's money world.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody's money world, right? If you let them tell the story. But when I read stories like this, brother, when I hear, Isaac Hayes III, and how he's crowdfunding and how he's trying to raise money for his app, his social media app.
Right.
I'm like, I don't think you guys are really talking about business. See, it's business. Yeah, because before there was a Black Brain Trust, there was Business, Wealth, and Power, right? And so we understand what was going on back then with certain content creators and certain participants and pundits that were like, oh yeah, we're all about the business. And then when you try to reach out to them behind the scenes, they don't reply to emails.
They ain't pull up.
Yeah, they're calling us snobs. You talk about business too much, and then they go out and become Seven Candles and they start selling, fragrances and perfume and, money world, all that was going on and people were pretending like that didn't happen. Right?
Hey, I was trying to stay up out of here, bro. I was trying to stay all the way the fuck up out of there, man. Go ahead.
But it's I'm saying it because it's relevant, because we're looked at like, somebody was saying the other day, oh, you guys are mad because you get low views, but we're talking things of substance, right? When you want to talk about who's supporting Black males and all your, Black manosphere and, this, the focus on Black men, we're focusing on Black men right now, right? And the story that we're reading, we've heard before, the pitfalls of raising venture capital as a Black entrepreneur would make a lot of folks walk away immediately because they can't handle the rejection of being told no, having elevators closing your face because you don't have badge access. These are structural issues. And if you think that you're going to alpha your way through it, you're in for a rude awakening. And the information that we're trying to provide to you is information of substance that is going to make it give you tangible results in the end, so that you don't go down the same path that other folks have gone down that have already failed.
Right.
And there's so many guys in the space who don't know this. They don't know this information, but we're doing our best to actually synthesize this information so that you have a better understanding of what's out there. Because a lot of these guys don't know this. You know, they too afraid to come out and too embarrassed to come out and say, you know, I'm sorry. I don't really know how this really works. You know, they're not going to come out and say that. They're just going to sit in the clouds and just pretend that, if we can get Keisha right, if we can get Black women right, that will solve all of our issues. I'm like, hey, you're in for a rude awakening, bro.
No, but Mike, here's the other thing, and I want to get Jay Charles in because he pulled up here.
Yeah.
But check it out, right? Like, this is the reason why, Mike. This isn't. I've been told that anytime we bring up like Pacific rides and stuff like that, whatever and I'm throwing this in air quotes, it's a flex, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no, it's not. What it actually is it's a use case.
Right.
It's a real-time use case. Because I remember when that shit was a fucking PowerPoint. Before it was all the shit in the garage and in the shop and at the bike shop and before it was all that and the IoTs and the GitHubs and all that, before it was all that, it was a goddamn PowerPoint in December of 2018, Mike. Right? And when you see this picture right here that you're looking at, and when you look at the other pictures from the other articles that we show, when you saw faces of brothers and stuff, what it is that this is supposed to serve as proof. It's not it's not we're right type of thing because you guys have your little micro machines company, right? No, what we're talking about here is an integral part of transportation and technology that's coming online right now. And not only are we highlighting the challenges of it, obviously, lack of access to capital, right? However, does that stop brothers from getting in it and doing it? No. That's why it fucked my head up when I found out that Rasheed Wallace was a part of Verve.
A lot of folks behind the scene that, making moves that we don't know.
Okay. All right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
what's
hey,
up,
Jay Charles. Yeah, what's going on, brother?
Hey, what's up, guys? You can hear me?
Hey, what's going on, bro?
We can hear you.
All right, so I'm listening to what Mike was explaining as far as like lack of funding for especially specifically for Black men when it comes to as far as the tech or things that can push technology forward, push things forward, right? And I was thinking, okay, what's the solution to that? How can we fix that, right? And I think you might have to go the legislation route, right? To kind of put pressure on investors or those who are willing to invest to focus more on Black men, especially Black community as a whole, because obviously, you look at throughout history, look at Reconstruction and how a lot of things that were invented push society forward, right? So obviously that shows about work, right? We're talented and we're amazing people, but I see that as we're not garnishing the support we need to put pressure on investors to start seeping funds towards the Black community, especially Black men, right? So I was watching a podcast on Ben Shapiro, right? He was explaining how he acquired funds for his Daily Wire, right? And that is media, right? And he was able to get $5 million just off the strength of him saying, "I'm the best at what I do." I'm just like, okay, like he didn't even have to do a hardcore businessman or whatnot, but you're just giving out money freely like that. It's off the strength of his what the belief and stuff, right? And you got people who have tangible evidence of what they're trying to create will work, but they're getting denied in the commercial space. Do you think that going this legislation route to put pressure on investors to see more money or a percentage of what they invest along, incentivizing by giving tax rates to them to do that? You think it's better to go that route?
Well, honestly, bro, there's a couple of things that's going on here, right? And so that's sort of like what these various articles that Mike covered today, right? Because there's different levels to this. So number one, there was that article that Mike covered where Mike, that's in DC, right? The rebate program?
Yeah, DC.
That was in DC. Okay. So the first thing is things like that, right? Government incentivization. Okay. Because that's an easy way to spur different sectors of business, because the government is incentivizing the populace to engage in the utilization of electric vehicles and stuff like that. And they're literally putting money on the table to do it. Now, when they give them the money has to then filter down. And this is the reason why. And Mike, if you could, okay, I think you have it in the description of the video. So I'll get the link. I want to dig into that, because it covered a whole bunch of different things, right? It covered purchase of the vehicle. Let's see, Mike, it covered maintenance. It
Locks.
covered battery. It covered locks. It covered
Cargo bikes.
It covered a bunch of stuff. See, so helmets. So that could be either there's a couple, there could be one or a couple of businesses that are seeing the benefits of those rebates, or it could be many businesses that are seeing the benefits of that rebates, because that's money that goes to the consumer, and then from the consumer, it has to be spent on what it is assigned for, right? So once that's done, then the businesses benefit, right? So that's why on the first level, government does have to do things like this. They do. They have to. The rebate programs have to be more robust. It's not just simply a matter, because look, you got people that can sell the stuff, but they don't service it. That's another business that literally just does nothing but, I service fleets. I service e-bikes, e-scooters. I do all that. You bring it my way, I accept the vouchers, Blase Skippy, boom.
The
right?
AAA
So
effect.
Thank you. Yeah, because what they do is they contract out, right, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, AAA comes to the side of the road, of a vehicle that's in distress. And they have contracts with the state on highways at peak times and whatnot. And they work with the insurance companies. Boom.
So that's now, when you have that in place, now you're starting to create that ecosystem for micro transportation. So now when we look at the trickle down, we go down a couple of rungs on that pyramid, so to speak. Now you're looking at different business opportunities. Now you're talking about micromobility shops. Why? Because the state is giving rebates for money for repairs and stuff. That's easy money.
And then you start talking about certification and licensing, because ASE is going to get involved.
Let's go.
ASE is going to be involved because they want to ensure that people don't get electrocuted, or that batteries don't explode in, businesses and stuff
now
like
you
that.
got certifications. Yeah.
Just like a car has a certification that, for crash impact, 5 stars, 4-star ratings, and, anti-lock brakes, belts and seat belts and things like that, airbags and sensors and things, all these things have to be functional before they become road ready and stuff. And so, I mean, that's more of the technical part to that. But to answer your question, J. Charles, government is the only catalyst right now that can actually work for Black people. There is no other alternative platform to this. There is no other way to go on about this. The billions of dollars that are being poured into micromobility, as an example of an industry, is coming from government.
Right.
And the public policy at the local level that is being spurred mostly in what's considered to be low income and impacted areas, or underrepresented areas, Chicago, DC, these areas. That's coming at the ground level from elected officials. And so where the money is going to come from, the money is coming from the government. Government is going to be the catalyst behind all of this. Elon Musk got $800 million for Tesla back in the mid 2000s. Okay. Public dollars went into what is considered to be the most dominant player in the EV industry right now.
Well, wait a minute, Mike, and let me tell you, Lucid got a pretty penny to build that plant in Arizona.
Yeah, but I'm saying Tesla was the first one. You wouldn't have.
I'm saying,
Tesla,
I'm just
Lucid, yeah.
No, I'm just saying I'm saying to follow up on that point, right?
Yeah.
Because first it was Tesla, then it was Lucid, right? And now we're, like I said, trickle down. Guess what's going to start to happen? Now it's in the micromobility space.
Yeah, and what that does is it makes the cost of battery technology significantly cheaper year over year because of the development of it. Those batteries and those Teslas and these other, Ford and your major contenders, your major market leaders, those batteries have to be offloaded at some point, whether because the car totaled or it just went through its cycle life, and then they get repurposed as serviceable batteries in the home. And then that technology also makes e-batteries, e-bike batteries and e-scooter batteries significantly cheaper because the research has already been done by government through the Department of Energy. See, all of this comes into full circle, Jay Charles, that government is the only catalyst right now that Black people and Black men specifically can rely on for investment. There's no other way around it.
So the problem means, so what you're saying, in other words, that the infrastructure is there, government setting it up, but so you think the lack of knowledge is how to kind of like integrate what they're trying to do with what's already there? Is that the problem right now?
Say that one more time.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Just repeat it a little bit.
Okay, so for what you're explaining, right? Like that means the infrastructure is there, the government setting that up, right? But the problem is that the lack of knowledge of how to integrate what they're trying to do in that sector to what's already there. Is that the problem? Like this integrating what they're trying to do as far as
there's a lack of understanding of how systems and governments work. Land grants were used to get a lot of things off the ground after the Civil War. Land grant universities, land grant businesses, farming, agriculture. A lot of that was spurred by government. But we have people who are saying we need to disconnect away from the government. And I'm saying, tell that to Elon Musk. He raised billions of dollars for Tesla and SpaceX through government investment. And yet people are talking about, no, Black people need to get away from the government. I'm saying, no, you need to be running to the government. They're going to be your biggest venture capitalists.
So it sounds like to me, you guys are giving people the way to how to do it. You guys give them the model of what works, right? So,
and we have not been wrong since. We have not been wrong. Every article that we've covered have basically, elaborated on everything we've covered over the last 5 years. That this is the way forward. But you have people who are saying otherwise. That we believe in small government. I'm saying, what small government are you talking about? Because it doesn't even work for those folks over there. It's just strange that I think Black men being egotistical about this don't want to admit that these ideas that they have cannot be manifested in real time.
Well, Mike, I would say that if you had access to private capital, right, or the type of lending that we were talking about, then I guess you would have an argument. But when we've already established that we have access to less than 1%.
Less than 1% of the billions of dollars.
Less than 1%. So I have a hard time buying that position is justified, right? Versus when we look at the rebate programs that the government provides, and then guess what that does? That spurs business. Now, I'll say this on record for maybe like about the 8th or 9th time. Back in 2021, we sold a nice amount of bikes because there was a voucher program in Sonoma County. And a client of ours that sold a bunch of bikes, they accepted the vouchers and we provided the bikes for them. That was a good month or two. Okay. I'm just saying, dude, it was like, yo, and that was for business.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if Black people had access to the same capital that Elon Musk was getting, you would see a radical shift in predominantly Black neighborhoods and communities, and that you would not have all of these sort of calamities of strife that people are going through. I mean, it's just that simple. That if Black men had access to the same capital that Elon Musk had, things would be significantly better. And so we have to, not run away from the government, run towards the government so that
utilize it.
So that you get the resources that everybody else is getting. Why would you want to walk away from that? Why would you want to alpha your way through that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, there's just a lot of ideas that I hear from Black men, and I'm like, I don't think you really do business like that. I don't think you really get it. Yeah, I don't think you really get it.
Dude, that's what I was saying, man. Like that rebate program, bro, I could see at least like 2 to 3, maybe even possibly 4 different business models that one could start, and literally for income and revenue, like literally you just accept vouchers. You just accept the vouchers.
Because they have to be
from
utilized.
That rebate program. Thank you.
They have to be utilized. I mean, they're specifically developed for that purpose. And so, I don't want to politicize this any further than what it already is. But I'm just saying that, we're having this conversation because it's relevant in our opinion to, the space. I don't see how talking about,
Ebony K. Williams and her,
Ebony K.
her
Williams, and some of these other, white males dating, Taylor Swift in the Swiftie community. And I'm like, how did,
oh my God, dude.
Yeah. Like, how does that actually enhance your position as a Black man in this society? Like, I don't get it. Like, explain that part. Like, how does that really bolster your position as a patriarchal man that, this gray boy dating Taylor Swift is somehow significant or something? It's like nails to a chalkboard to me. It's nails to a chalkboard when I hear guys talk about that. I'm like, what?
Bro, and we're literally the face of this industry, low key or high key. I don't know how you look at it, but like I said, bro, like when you were sending me those joints over the last few weeks, I was just like, fam, like, why? What am I looking at? Like, wow. I don't know if this is a calling or what, but
yeah.
I think the problem is a lack of priorities and vision, right? I guess, especially in this space, I kind of had to disconnect myself from a lot of these channels, but I think that the problem is the lack of vision and priorities. I think why is that? Because we're too caught up in entertainment and not caught up in social impact, right? Not caught up in progression and progress. So I think that's a problem, and I think the way to change that is leave these guys alone, man, and focus on the youth, right? Create organizations that teaches how the process of working with the government as far as gaining capital and whatnot, and also growing awareness, growing support to put more pressure on these private companies and firms who are giving funds to palm color or different individuals. I know Mike was saying a while ago that there was an investor who was putting pressure on other investors. He was a white guy that they're not putting more money to the Black startups. I forgot that.
Yeah, Jason Calacunis.
Okay, what happened with that?
Yeah.
Like, is he still standing on that same position, or is he?
Well, he showed what Jason did was he showed up a lot of the other VC because he's an angel investor. He exists at the 0 to 50, zero to $100,000 investment stages, right? And so he's at the early stages. But what he did was he called out the other VCs based on the numbers, saying, I'm going to get in at the beginning. See, he knew who the brother was who started Calendly. the small app that people use to schedule appointments, which now is become a I think it's worth $1 billion now. So I think it's a unicorn.
Everybody uses it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a unicorn now. I think Microsoft or somebody invested into it. I forget who it was. But he's saying, why didn't you all get in on these Black startups? Because what the article is saying here and what these other Black startups were going through at the time, they weren't getting the venture capital that other white Anglo-Saxon folks startup founders were getting. And so the disparity between the two was like, okay, if you guys are really about justice or DEI for that matter, after George Floyd, put up and shut up. Put up. And so he put money up. He came and put money behind a lot of Black startups at the early stages. So he's an early stage investor. And so that's where he showed them up. And so he already made his contribution. I don't expect him to do anything more than what he's already done. But I think when it comes, because now you see with affirmative action, the decision, right? We now see them going after the Black, funds that were being started by Black women. And a lot of Black men in this space were like, whoa, ha, 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 he, right? Look at the sisters getting torn out the frame. And like, they're talking about you too. They're not just going after sisters, they're coming after you too.
No, it's not as if they take it away from them and give it to you. But Mike, I need I kind of lost the point. You had made shit. Oh, I want to go back to it.
Write it down. Jibba Jabba.
I don't have a pen. I don't have a pen and pencil.
Jibba Jabba has a question in the chat. And then we'll peel.
Yeah, that was the other thing too. I wanted to hit some questions in there. Because I saw that question. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jibba Jabba asked, is subcontracting for public transportation authorities a viable option to get municipal capital? Yeah. How do you think elevators and escalators in these, municipal facilities get fixed? I mean,
yeah. People who fix like corrupt elevators and shit like that.
Yeah, all your infrastructure gets outsourced.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of have a director of facilities or whatever it is, a certified facilities engineer or manager or whatever they call it now, and they kind of dole it out to whatever multi-year contractor that they have to seek out. And so, so there to answer your question, there is money in the subcontract servicing side of many things.
I was going to say, Mike, even so, like, let's just take micromobility, right? So if we center it on the topic of the live stream, right? Bird uses subcontractors.
Yeah, that's what
Bird even uses subcontractors, right? So, and that's for the maintenance of their fleets and all that, right? So now you're talking business to government, and then vis-a-vis be the subcontractor, right? Bird to subcontractor vis-a-vis Bird to government, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, and that's just giving you an example from a micromobility standpoint. Outside of that applies to literally everything else when it comes to government.
Mm-hmm.
There.
Yeah. So that's pretty much where you are right now. I think that even Black subcontractors get less than 1% of the government contracts in many of these cities. In fact, there's no city where Black people are getting the major of the contracts. Even in Jackson, Mississippi, they had to go to a French company, Veolia, for the water maintenance and infrastructure development of the
what?
Yeah, that was the holdup. That was the holdup. Not so much that Veolia was the problem, but the governor created stipulations that they had to go through a review. And that review took over a year, it took 2 years, and until Veolia basically backed out and said, no, we're not going to do this. Because they're not making any money off of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, dude, Veolia operates here in California. That's why I was like, wait, what? I know that company. I've known of that company.
Yeah, Veolia, basically a French company that does public works utilities. And so
Yeah.
I'm saying, to your point,
Oh,
jibber jabber, the subcontracting aspect, that is very relevant, but Black people don't even get 1% of the contracts. They get less than, I think they get 1 to 1.5% of the contracts at best, in a lot of areas. And so even in Jackson, a majority Black city, there, Black contractors are not the big beneficiaries of the contracts because of there's so many bureaucratic red tape that's involved to keep Black people from competing for white contracts.
I was going to say
contracts from white contractors.
Well, Mike, a lot of let's keep it a buck, right? So a lot of campaign contributions to politicians, right? That's sort of like the greasing of the palm for said contracts, which kind of de facto sort of freezes you out a little bit or a lot of it, depending on where you're at, right? So let's also throw that on the table, the very real elephant in the room, right? That is there. But then once again, we've also talked about being the type of dudes who pull up with briefcases too, right? If we got to get grimy like that. See, so it really becomes a matter of what is your interest, right? And how much are you willing to put at stake to secure it? That's really like the $1 million question on the table.
Yeah, that's why I said it's beyond super chats, it's beyond cash apps.
Thank you.
This is significantly bigger. We're talking billions and billions and
a lot
billions
of money.
of dollars. Okay, billions and I don't even think people can fathom what billions of dollars even looks like. I mean, you're talking about forklifts of money. Forklifts. You need a forklift to move $1 billion.
Well, you broke down the money. You broke down the money exchange between Bird and Spin. Like I said, Spin was owned by Ford.
Yeah.
Okay, that was confirmed in the Boaz article.
Yeah.
Y'all think we don't know our biz. We know our biz. Trust on this.
Yeah.
Okay, see, so it's a lot of big money. Ford is last time I checked, Ford is a big money company. Yeah or not?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm just saying there's a lot of money in this. A lot of big money involved in this. Whether you believe it or not. Okay. Right? Government subsidies on the table. Now we're expanding outside of just purchasing, but now it's going to be the whole chain. Accessories, lock, security, safety, maintenance, power and battery, vehicle, cargo, commercial, you name it. They got a rebate for it. They put money on the table for all of it. I'm just saying this spurs, at least in my head, 2 to 4 different businesses.
Yeah, I mean, Ford has a defense contracting side of their business, and they supply vehicles to the federal government. Look at what's the company out in Springfield, Massachusetts? Lenco, Lenco. They supply
the dudes who build who build like that military, the
MRAPs.
There you go. Yeah.
They supply 80% of law enforcement in the federal government with MRAPs. 80%. They are the largest stakeholder in this, and they are privately owned. But you think about what an MRAP goes for. You have 20,000 law enforcement agencies across the country. Every law enforcement. How much is an MRAP? An MRAP can cost anywhere between $500,000 to $10 million.
Okay.
Every agency has at least 2 MRAPs minimum. 2.
That's kind of like maybe like the contract standard, right? You got to buy 2 of them.
No, different MRAPs do different vehicles do different things. Like you'll see some of them have ladders, some of them have some of them they only seat maybe 4 people versus the dozen people that may be in the back of the MRAP that may be, for SWAT team operations and stuff like that. There's different MRAPs that do different things. But I'm saying they buy it, they have different application use cases for why they have different MRAPs.
I'm saying, but what I'm asking is that you said every agency has at least 2. So I'm saying like they probably stipulate that for any kind of purchase contract, that minimum, you got to buy 2. So however the configuration, right?
I don't know
But
necessarily if they stipulate that you have to
is it
buy two
stipulated?
because most
Okay.
some small town agencies only have one MRAP, right? But I'm
Oh,
saying
okay.
major cities, New York City
Have at
has
least two.
New York City has probably about 24 MRAPs.
Oh shit. Okay.
They're a paramilitary force within the state itself.
Well, I've seen them in LA. I don't know how many,
Yeah.
but I've
Yeah.
legit seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, but to Jibber Jabber's point about subcontracting, that's where Lenco comes in for defense contracting. Chrysler, you know when they
Police cars and shit.
yeah, the interceptors and stuff like that.
Yep.
You know, GM with the Tahoe Interceptor. There's a lot of
Yeah, the SUV
opportunity.
police truck. Yeah, the SUV police truck.
Yeah, they call them interceptors. Yeah,
Yeah.
you Motorola. You know,
Wait, Motorola, like what devices? Like the communications devices for law enforcement, like the radio joints?
the body cameras.
Yeah,
the body
yeah.
cameras are
Okay.
made by Motorola, right?
Yeah, okay.
The radios are made by Harris, sometimes in some areas.
Okay.
And so
okay.
What I'm saying here is, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, but Black people are not getting those contracts because, you know, for whatever reason, you know, people don't seem to think that it's important to actually go after that. And so Jay Charles has dropped. I'm ready to close out. And
Okay. Yeah, me and Shorty, we about to head out to the county fair, bro. So hey, I appreciate this chop up, fam.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like.